Now we have viewed our test site. Let's take a look around the inner workings of the Laravel framework, starting with the folder structure and what goes where.
All right, so the next step for us is going to be going through our Laravel folder structure. But what we need to understand is that we've set up our folders in the homestead YAML file that maps a local folder, homestead/projects, to our remote folder, which we won't need to really mess with from here on. But how do you edit the files that are inside of the Vagrant box on your local machine? So that's the joy of the Homestead project, as well as what Vagrant is doing for us. It's going to take that folder, the /homestead projects, and whatever's inside of it, and it's going to keep it in sync with the virtual machine. So if we go over to our projects folder and drop it down, you'll see now we have a Laravel Basics folder. So we're not going to need to mess with the remainder of the Homestead folder. So I'm just going to open up only the Laravel Basics folder now. So closing out my Sublime and then opening up just the Laravel Basics folder to keep it less confusing from here on out. So I'm going to go to my Homestead folder, go to my Projects folder, and then you'll see Laravel Basics. I'm going to open that folder by using the Sublime command, SUBL, Laravel Basics. Okay, so now we have our Laravel Basics folder open for us. We don't have to worry about the Homestead environment anymore. Let's take some time to review the Laravel folder structure. There are 4 main folders inside of the initial install: App, Bootstrap, Public, and Vendor. The folder we're going to concern ourselves with is the App folder. First, let's take a look at the other 3. So the Bootstrap folder, when a visitor first arrives in our app, they're going to be served to the index.php file that lives inside of our /public folder. That file will send a load application through the files here in our Bootstrap folder. These are the files that are responsible for loading our framework. You'll not need to modify these files under normal circumstances. The public folder, which I just mentioned, holds all of the files that are being served to the public, or publicly accessible files. In the beginning stages, we're going to be placing our CSS, our images, our JavaScript files, all here in this folder. The next folder is the Vendor folder. Inside of the Vendor folder is where all of our framework core files and included composer packages will be contained. You're not going to need to worry about this folder in your first few applications. Like I said, we're going to mostly concern ourselves here with the App folder. So let's take a look at the Application folder. We're going to focus on the folders that we need to spend the most amount of time in. The others we'll get into as we learn more. If you feel the need to explore, as you should, feel free to do so and post any questions you may have. First off, we have our Config folder. So inside of our Config folder, it holds all the configuration requirements of our entire application and is organized into named files that will describe the areas which they're meant to configure. Viz database PHP for database settings, session PHP for session configuration. Our controllers folder is going to be where all of our controllers for our applications live. There's an example provided, and it will be described in further subsequent lessons, but we can always go and take a look at it. For instance, our home controller. Controllers are a major component of this framework, and we will spend a lot of time here. Okay, looking at the database folder, this is going to be where our migrations, our seeds, versioning, structures, the seed being the initial population of the data, will all be housed here. The models folder is another folder that will get a lot of attention, like the controllers folder. This is going to store all of our application's models. The duty of these models will be to house any direct logic relating to our database from our application. Another folder here that we're going to look at, the last folder, is the Views folder. Our Views folder will be the location of markup template system, how we organize all the methods that will show our application to the outside world. So in essence, our HTML files. The final thing that we need to look at, and we're going to spend a good amount of time, is our routes.php file. So the routes PHP file, it's not obviously not a folder, but it's where we're going to configure the mapping of our entire application from a URL. So the routes file is going to tell us when a visitor arrives at a particular address and location on our website, how we should take that URL and what we should do with it or how we should process it. As you can see in this case, if it is a get to / or the root or the home, it's going to return a view called hello, which is what you've seen already when we first visited our local host to see the test site. That is the hello template that it was serving up.